Well, I was a young girl, born and raised right there in Sunnyside, Houston, Texas, with my mom. She's a single mom. Of I was the oldest daughter, and I have a younger brother. She raised us very well, and right there in Sunnyside in Wilmington Apartments, which is no longer there, right behind Worthing High School. As a young girl, we went to church, the regular, normal childhood, as you would call it. Thought of love, feeling love or whatever, but yet as I started getting a little older, I started noticing some unloving things from my mom. One particular memory, I was in the kitchen pouring Kool-Aid, and of course, 5, 6 years old, you don't know that you need to hold the cup while you're pouring the Kool-Aid, and I actually poured the Kool-Aid, and I didn't hold the cup, and the Kool-Aid went everywhere, all over the floor. Within the next few seconds, all I felt was a palm of someone's hand in my back. And that was my mom basically chastising me for wasting the Kool-Aid all over the floor. And just from there, going to church and things like that, basically, it was a little troublesome, but as a child, I was always so happy-go-lucky, so goofy. I would make the best out of every moment. So I didn't despise my mom. I just thought I really did something wrong. And so I just dismissed it. And as we continue on, my mom, a lot of times when I would get in trouble or if I do something, used to get in trouble a lot for talking in school. I talked a lot in class. And I was in school when the teachers could spank you with a ruler, so I would get that often and then get a whooping when I get home for talking in class. But I kept talking. However, like I said, we went to church right there in Sunnyside. We would go to church faithfully every Sunday. We wake up to Sunday mornings with the record player playing full gospel music, the Shirley Caesar and all the Mighty Clouds of Joy and all the other great psalmists and singers back then. And so I can remember going to church and wanting to be in the choir. They had this it was a big thing about being in the choir, and they had a little girl that sang in the choir. So I was like, I want to sing in the choir too. I want to sing for God. And I just developed a love for God, just going to church and going to Sunday school. Matter of fact, one of my godmothers was my Sunday school teacher. And I began to understand God and began to really have a relationship with him, so to speak, as a young kid, just learning who he was and really developing that understanding of who God was in my life and that it was important to have him in my life. Well, going back to that choir, turned out they said they couldn't allow kids to sing in a choir. But I didn't understand it because there was another young girl that sang in a choir, but she was the pastor's daughter. So I experienced the rejection very early on, right there in the church. And then not only experiencing rejection in the church, but also the void at home. I remember growing up, the person I thought was my dad, basically I would see him maybe 2 or 3 times out of the year because he was in the Army. And so I felt so gifted every time he would come in town. I remember as a little kid him taking me to the zoo with his other kids, and just felt really special. But shortly after when I began to start writing, I began writing him while he was in the Army. For years I would write, and he would write me back. And my mom sometimes would sit there and read the letters to me, and I began to start reading on my own because I was so determined. I was such a determined little girl. I would sit in my room playing with dolls and reading all the time, coloring artwork, you name it. And so it's just one thing after another. Basically, that relationship became estranged. I didn't know why. I know that by the time I was a teenager, I had to go to the doctor's office with my mom, and they did a little swabbing test and didn't know what that was about. But as I got older, I understood that basically that was a DNA test to see if I was his daughter. And some something happened to where my mom was trying to, I guess, get child support to help take care of me, along with getting child support from my brother's dad at the time, to get some help and support as a single mom, which is understandable. However, found out he was not my dad all that time, and so there I go, rejection again, because I felt like a daughter. I was treated like a daughter. I thought I was his daughter, but yet I felt like I was quickly dismissed and forgot about just that easily. And throughout the years, I just, my mom, it was my mom, my brother, and myself in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. We just basically just continue living life, but yet just watch my mom kind of dwindle down, always looking for companionship. And at a very young age, she was exposed to a lot of different relationships that she had. One of the things that I know she probably wasn't proud of, and I still love her dearly, and I know she meant well, but there was a lot of times I would wake up and find a random guy laying there with her when I would wake up in the morning on a Saturday morning, and they had been passed out on the sofa. And so, back then, it was like, it's not something you should see. Let me go back to my room. So I spent a lot of time in my room, just kind of just like making sure my brother didn't see it, and, just go back to bed, whatever, and wait a couple hours or so, whatever, when I hear some noise and people moved around. I know it's time to come out of my room. And well, a lot of times I didn't tell her that I saw it, or what did I see, because I didn't want her to feel embarrassed. I kind of felt embarrassed for her. Here I am, little girl, trying to protect my mom, right? Well, as we got, the years passed on, we ended up moving in with my grandmother, my brother, my mom, and myself. And right there in Herm Clark, we would stay with my mom, stay with my grandmother, and that was one of the greatest times. I love being around my grandmother. I would be in the kitchen with my grandmother, helping her cook and helping her clean and do all the other little stuff that she would ask me to do. And my grandmother, she was my pride and joy, basically, kind of like my protector. Because like while we was living with my grandmother, we didn't deal with a lot of my mom cursing at me and calling me out my name or fussing at me or whatever, because my grandmother would be right there and she'll make sure that doesn't happen. And so I can remember my grandmother, my mom got into it really, really bad, and we had to move out, and I cried. We went and stayed with a friend of my mom's, which I didn't like, because their household was like full of different random people in and out, and the daughter would bully me while I was living with them. And so my mom ended up getting with the guy during that time, and they was getting really serious, and we ended up moving to, I believe it was the Aristocrat Apartments right there in Herm Clark. And as we were in the Aristocrat Apartments, my mom, him, and the guy that she was with, and my brother. Well, this guy, he seemed cool at first. We felt like we really had a dad around that kind of helped my mom out, watch over us and protect us, that kind of thing. Well, this guy really started showing his true colors, not long after they were married. He started drinking a lot, and a lot of times we would find him, he would come home so erratic and just hollering and loud and cursing and fussing, and it would result to him putting his hands on my mom. And so I know after a period of time, I think I was about maybe 11 or 12 during the time. And I just felt like I was the big sister. I needed to protect my brother. I need to protect my mom. I'm like, I'm really tired of this. And I kind of started watching him mistreat my brother a little bit, and even putting his hands on my brother unnecessarily. He would spank my brother for no reason at all, just for random reasons. And so I think it was a lot because of the alcohol. But of course, as a kid, I didn't know too much about what an alcoholic was. I just knew this is a bad influence. However, there was one particular night, he came home, and my brother and I, we were asleep, like sound asleep. And it was around the Christmas time, because I remember the Christmas tree being up in the corner. And all I heard was a lot of cursing, a lot of fussing, there was a lot of commotion. And so I came out of the room, and all I saw was him on top of my mom, just beating her, just beating her, just beating her. And I remember my brother coming out of the room, and I kind of pushed him behind me so he wouldn't see it. And we're screaming and crying like, stop, stop, stop. And he would not stop. And so I don't even know how I got from where I was to, there was a front and back door to the apartment. I don't know how I got to this particular back door, which is opened up into the entire complex, well, the complex section where we were. And I began screaming. I was screaming for a neighbor, Miss Vaughn, a very sweet lady, but my mom's friend. But that's all I knew to do. Like, hey, you got to come help. And I don't know if she heard me or what, but I didn't see anybody coming. So I came back into the apartment, and he was still on top of my mom. My mom was still trying to get up off the floor, and he wouldn't let her. And he started kind of banging her head. And all I knew, I grabbed the ashtray off the table, and I just hit him across the head. And I don't know how everything kind of stopped at that point, but it like literally stopped. And I can just remember just at that moment, watching my mom cry, and him, I think he went off to jail. I kind of blocked out a lot of the things that happened after that moment. It was like literally like an out-of-body experience, because here I am, 11, 12 years old, fighting this big grown man off my mom. And so after that, my mom just kind of coddled us a little bit and hugged on us and told us that she loved us. And so, at a very early age, I think I kind of learned that the affection and love came after a traumatic experience. That trauma had to happen for you to experience that kind of empathy, that kind of compassion and consolation, and which is, we know it's not true, but that's what I saw, that's what I experienced. And thinking about that moment, right back to that wasn't the first moment that he had raised his hand to hit my mom, because my mom was dating him, I believe, or right after she married him, when we were living in the apartment. He hit on her then, and we called the police then. And that same hug, and I remember just being able to hug my mom so tight around her neck, just saying, Mom, and if I could have that moment back, I would be like, Mom, you could do so much better. You don't deserve this, that this shouldn't happen. But lo and behold, she married him, and they stayed together for some time. But shortly after that last incident of me hitting him with the ashtray, they separated for a while. And I was kind of happy to see him go, because then we kind of got back to us, my mom, my brother, and me, having that time and not having to deal with all the chaos and confusion and the drama. But I don't know, somehow, my mom, she's worked a lot. She, did a lot of things to try to help take care of my brother and I. And by this time, I think at middle school, so I just remember it was a great time during middle school. It was just my brother, myself, my mom. And so by this time, we moved from the Aristocrats to Kings Row Apartments, which is back to Sunnyside. And my brother would go right there to elementary. I would go to Woodson Middle School, and we would walk to school every day, walk back home. And it was just like a sweet time, because I'm like, we got a chance to kind of just enjoy one another, not have to deal with all the drama that we were dealing with all throughout that time, that no one knew what we were dealing with, because the rule was whatever goes in this house, whatever happens in this house, it stays in this house. And so you knew not to tell nobody about what happened, what was going on. And so I didn't. I didn't tell, not even my teachers, not anyone. I didn't want anything to happen to my mom. I didn't want anything to happen to my brother and I. So I didn't share any of the things that were going on. And so middle school, we had some really great times, because I was like sixth grade attendant and all these other different accolades and things that would happen that made my mom proud. And my mom would come to the school and support me in those different things. She couldn't do as much because she was working like I believe two jobs still at this time. And so I spent a lot of time, just doing the work. I would come home, make sure my brother do his homework, start dinner, make sure we wash clothes, fold clothes, do our chores, take the trash out. I was kind of like the second mom of the home when my mom was at work, making sure he did his homework, making sure that he got his clothes out for the next day, making sure he took his bath, and making sure he ate. I would sometimes set my mom's lunch aside or her dinner aside for when she got home. And then I knew maybe by 6:30, 7 o'clock, she would be home sometimes. Sometimes we'd be just at home making sure everything was straightened for her to get home. And so we did that for quite a bit of time. Our Saturdays were spent going to the laundromat, washing all the clothes, drying all the clothes, folding all the clothes. And then when we got back home, we knew we had to put those clothes away. So we did a lot of that. I think shortly after, when I graduated from 8th grade to going to high school, my mom was really big about me going to Madison. Most of my family went to Madison. So I ended up going to Madison High School, join the magnet program, because living in Sunnyside, of course, you would need to live in the Herm Clark area in order to go to high school to Madison. But they had a magnet program that I could be a part of to allow me to go. So I was really excited about that. My mom did not want me to go to the neighborhood high school at the time. She wanted me to go to the family high school, so to speak. So went to Madison, started my 9th grade year off okay. Went through, forgot to mention middle school. I went through some bullying in middle school. Right before my 8th grade graduation, there was a death threat because we received a call to our apartment, that somebody was going to get me, do something to me on the last day. So I saw a new side of my mom when she came to my defense and make sure that nothing happened to me. And then going on to high school, my mom met a guy. And while we were living there in Kings Road, he was okay at first, gifted, skilled, that kind of thing. But he had a drug problem. And so we will find that sometimes, my lunch money will be stolen. My radio will be stolen. I had this little radio cassette player I begged my mom for years. And she finally got it. It was a little burgundy cassette player. And that was a really big deal back then. You had to have a cassette player to play your tapes and make your little music from recording music from the radios. So that was a really big deal. And he stole that. I can remember him also just taking just random different things. You name it, he stole it and went and sold it. And so at this time, my mom didn't have a car. She was riding public transportation to and from work. And there would be sometimes she would go and borrow my grandmother's car, which would require us to get up extremely early in the morning, go. My grandmother would come to the apartment, pick us up. We would drive my grandmother to work, which was downtown St. Joseph Hospital. And we would drive back home, get ready for school, whatever mom would drop us off, take the car, and we'd do it every day. And so there was one time my grandmother let my mom keep the car overnight. I think she was going out of town or something. My grandmother had this Buick, and I can't remember what kind of car it was, but I know it was a Buick. And so my mom got up that morning and the car was gone. Oh, wow. We were like, the car is gone. What happened to the car? And all I can remember, I don't know who it was, but mom called somebody, and we went riding. I was in the back seat of the car, and we went riding to the 3rd Ward area. I guess that's what she knew where the guy would be, and that's what the so-called dope house was, and where he would go and get high. And so my mom found the car parked right there in the grass area in front of the house. And she went in there, got her keys for the car. And turned out he sold the car for $5 for crack. $5. I was like, wow. And then in the glove compartment, when she opened the glove compartment, there was my pink little wallet where I saved all my little money for lunch and for my allowance that my mom would give me for the week. It's like $10 back then because I received free lunch and I only had to pay like a quarter or two, but my mom would give me $10 a week, which was a really big sacrifice for a single mom. Working 2 jobs, trying to take care of us. And so at this point, I'm so angry with him. I'm like, this man keeps stealing from us. Like, how often are we gonna go through this? So my outlet was more of school. My teachers, they were so encouraging. My counselors, my choir teacher, I never forget Miss Berkeley. All of them just like really made a huge impact in my life. I just remember all the encouraging words I would go to some of my teachers and kind of talk about some of the things I was dealing with that I could trust. And, they would give me encouragement of, what to do and how to handle certain things. But I just kept smiling, kept being goofy, kept being big ball laughter, as they would call it. I was extra goofy back then, by the way. I found reasons to smile, even though I had a lot to be sorrowful for. But I chose not to be. And so throughout that time, Mom, she kept dating him. He kept coming back. He would win his way back in. And by this time, I found myself falling in love with this guy in high school. And we made a decision to do some things sexually that we shouldn't have done, where I lost my virginity. And basically, from there, our relationship something transpired that I didn't know about until years later, where my mom and my aunt found out about it. And so by this time, it was like, you gotta go, we gotta do something else. And let me backtrack a little bit. Right before that happened, the stepfather that we had at the time, he just kept make advances toward me. I was, becoming this young lady, and so he kept making advances and kept trying to show attention in ways I was not interested. And so I just pretty much ignored him until my mom and I I was in her room doing my hair that night, getting ready for school the next day, and she said something to me, and I don't know what happened. I don't know where I got the courage from to even, because my mom was crazy. People knew my mom was crazy. She didn't play that. You didn't talk back to her. You didn't say nothing back to her. You just go catch those hands, or her mouth was enough. And so basically, that is when we got into a very, very heated argument. And the stepfather at the time, he was there. He got engaged into the conversation. And at this point, I was like, you don't need to say anything to me. Just don't say anything to me. And my mom was like, you need to respect him, whatever. I said, respect who? Like, at this point, I was like, no, I'm not respecting this garbage, because I'm like, this man steals from us. This man, he takes from us. And then by this point, she kept defending him. I was like, you're defending him, but you don't even know what he did. And she was like, and she looked at him like, what did he do? And he got real defensive. And was like, I didn't do anything to her. And I was like, so you weren't standing in my room watching me get dressed. So you wasn't. And I started naming all the things he did and all the things he was saying. And so finally, Mom was like, you know what? You just a liar. And, this. And then I remember her slapping me in my face. And at this point, I was like, you know what? I don't even want to live anymore. I got to go somewhere else. You can stay here with this, but I don't want to be here anymore. And somehow within a day or two, I was moving in with my grandmother and her and Clark by myself, my brother, my mom, and the stepfather stayed in an apartment. Here I go, feeling rejected all over again and abandoned, because I felt like, here's my mom kicking me out over this man. And what he said, you believe him and you don't believe me. I'm your daughter, right? Well, I'm after moving in with my grandmother, that's when I had found a relationship with this guy and really thought I loved him, and really thought we can develop a relationship. He was telling me all the things I wanted to hear a girl would want to hear. He loved me. He cared about me. He listened to me. I told him about everything that I had to face, and he said he cared so much, and he was so compassionate. Well, after my grandmother found out what happened, she was like, baby girl, Granny can't do this, and I think that's the first time I really felt so horrible because I had made my grandmother cry. And to this day, I don't know where I'm tearing up again about it, but I really felt like I disappointed her at the time, because I'm like, here is my biggest hero, my biggest everything, and I never meant to disappoint her, and so I had to move in with my aunt right there in Cloverland, which is another part of Sunnyside. And after I moved to Sunnyside with my aunt, she was like, I'm putting the strains on you. Like, she got very, very strict, and decided to basically give me some structure to ensure, thank you, to ensure that I don't, basically get out of hand, so to speak. I was gonna stay on the right path. I was gonna finish school. I was not gonna be pregnant and do all these other things. And I get it. And so my aunt, she came back into my life. Well, she came into my life at a very pertinent time. We went to church every Sunday. There was we went to Bible study. We went to BTU. We went to 3 p.m. service. We went to, you name it, we was at church. And so I enjoyed it. We had fun. There were always activities at the church. We were very close to our pastor and the first lady. And my first lady ended up becoming one of my greatest mentors during the time, because I felt like that was my outlet. I could talk to her about anything. And she kind of I was able to share most of my story with her, because my aunt and I started having challenges. Because I'm like, she's so strict on me. She won't let me do anything. She won't let me go anywhere. I can't even go to the football game. And I just started getting very frustrated with that, because I'm like, here I am, I'm displaced from my mom. I've upset my grandmother. And now I'm living with my aunt. It's like I'm this kid being passed around. And I'm not a troubled kid. I just, a normal kid that's wants love, that want to be loved, want to be treated right. And, a normal kid that want a dad, right? But yet it kept getting the bad end of the stick. That's what it felt like. And so having that relationship with God during that time really kept me sane. I can remember, if I go back to even being in an apartment with my mom, so many nights I laid there and I'm like, I could just leave this earth right now. I could just jump out this window, and we lived on the second floor. I'm really contemplating about this, like, well, we live right in front of the bayou, so if I jump out the window, maybe I could just roll down into the water and I could just drown because I don't know how to swim. Or maybe I could just jump out the window. And then I thought about it, I'm like, well, if we're on the second floor, that's not tall enough for me to jump out the window, because if I jump out the window, then I might just only break a limb, and I don't want to be hospitalized. I don't like pain. I don't like needles. I don't want to be in the hospital. If I'm going to do this, I want to just be out of here, just like that. And my mom didn't have a gun or anything like that, so I'm like, maybe I just kept thinking about suicide. Always I can just, I'm like, I'm not wanted. Nobody wants me. My dad doesn't even want me. My mom doesn't treat me like she want me. Like, what is this? And then the only time someone shows me that they want me is when they want something from me. And here I am, this young girl. I'm like, okay, this guy comes along in high school and he tells me he loves me. He tells me that I'm beautiful. He shows me support and all these different things. And after a year or so, we were together and we ended up being intimate with one another. And like I said, my grandmother found out and I had to move with my aunt, and I had to stop talking to him, and he stopped talking to me. So there I was in high school looking at him every day, and he had moved on to someone else. So I felt forgotten about, rejected, abandoned all over again. Things just kept repeating, right? And so, I cried cried about it, and was very heartbroken. Couldn't tell anybody how I felt because, like, I shouldn't have been doing that with him anyway, like all the adults said. And so finally, kind of didn't really get over him, but I ended up meeting another guy at church, and we kind of just kind of started liking each other. But I was like, you know what? I'm kind of done with the guys at this point. I'm like, y'all all just want one thing. I'm tired of this or whatever. Like, I'm tired of feeling used. I want somebody to want me for me and not what they can get from me. And so he kept trying. He kept pursuing. Also, a point where I can't recall, we were in a choir together as young kids. We were in the children's choir. And all I can remember is the fact that he was trying to talk to me. And after choir rehearsal, these two girls started arguing over him. And I'm like, why y'all arguing over him? What can he offer to either one of y'all? He ride on the Metro bus. What is he gonna do for y'all, right? So I'm making a big deal about this thing. However, in the midst of that, the same night of me talking to these two young ladies about nonsense that they were arguing over, he gives me his number on a bus transit card. And I'm thinking, like, really, dude? Like, really? And so after maybe a year or so, he kept calling, kept trying to talk to me, kept trying to do this, and I'm like, I'm not, nah. And so in his mind, he thought I was easy. He thought I was just gonna be just quick, whatever. Like, he just gonna get me knocked up. Like, nah, buddy, this don't happen that way. I do have some values. I do have some respect for myself. And so shortly after we started, I ended up giving him a chance, giving him a try. We ended up dating for quite some time, and just basically started sharing with him about my childhood. Even I didn't talk about it in fifth grade, where I liked this little boy in fifth grade and thought he was so cute, and I had a crush on him. And the first day I had told him that I liked him was the biggest regret of my life. I went outside on the playground. We had recess time back then. And so I would never forget, I was out on the playground, and it was like this little crawl up wooden playground thing. I don't know what to call it, but you walked up under it to climb up to go up across this little rocky ramp. And when I went up under the ramp, he called over, it had to be at least 10 to 12 boys. It was like, there she go get her. And I'm like, go get who? Like, what are y'all doing? And all I know, I felt trapped. I was up under this wooden ramp. The teachers were across the blacktop. They were like a lot further away from me, sitting down, talking. And all I remember doing is just fighting and screaming because they were trying to rip off my clothes. They were trying to rip off. I had a little jumper and a jumpsuit on along with the shirt. And they were just trying to rip. They were grabbing me and pulling on me. And before I knew it, I don't know how I broke free, but I broke free. And when I got to the blacktop where the other kids were, they kind of looked at me because everybody's screaming and making noise. So no one heard me screaming for help. And I got to a blacktop and I fell to my knees, and like I just started bawling, crying. And I don't even remember who came and got me, but I told my teacher at the time. She was like, "Baby, what happened?" And all I could get out, they were trying to rape me. They were trying to rape me. And so all I know, my mom came to the school, and once again I felt so just like my mom got me. And of all the times I felt she didn't have me, she had me this time. And she walked to the door and she was like, "Where is he? Where is he? We're pressing charges. Where is he? Where's my child?" And she grabbed me, and I'm telling you, that was one of the greatest hugs ever, because it was like, I thought that was it for me at that point. I know that he had got arrested. I don't know what happened after that. He got expelled from school. I never had to see him again. But it was a huge embarrassing experience for me. And now here I am with this guy or whatever, and I'm telling him all of this. So to speak, thinking, oh, hey, if I tell you all these things, like this is who I am, this is where I've been. I don't need you coming into my life taking advantage of me. I don't need you to come into my life to hurt me or take anything from me. If you're not coming to give anything, I'm not for it, that kind of thing. In so many words, because there I was, a teenager in love, just wanting to be loved and wanting to experience it, real love.